I'm going to begin by reciting a short snippet from the Gospel of John, and then we're going to go into an in-depth look at who is Mary, how do we relate to her, and what can we take away from this retreat, which will act as a seed that will bear fruit in our lives, that will help us move toward the harvest of the Father. From the Gospel of St. John. When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garments and made 4 parts, one for each soldier, also his tunic. But the tunic was without seam, woven from top to bottom. So they said to one another, "Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see whose it will be." This was to fulfill the scripture, "They parted my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." So the soldiers did this. But standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her to his own home. After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said to fulfill the scripture, "I thirst." A bowl full of vinegar stood there. So they put a sponge full of the vinegar on hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the vinegar, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. So who is Mary? Who is his mother? Why would she be so present at such a last hour? Why would it be so important that she witnesses him coming into the world and the unique, singular manner in which he leaves this world? Why does she need to be there? Wouldn't he want to shield her from that? It's not normal that parents watch their children die, frankly. It's not normal that they would physically see it happen. St. Thomas Aquinas taught that Jesus was the most sensitive out of all human beings. A sensitivity of body, a sensitivity of soul. This is one of the reasons why Jesus was able to suffer more than any human person. Because his body was an instrument for that soul. And Mary is the source from which he drew his body. Okay? One of my favorite passages in the book of Proverbs says something like this. It belongs to God to keep things secret. And it belongs to kings to search those out. Okay? It is proper to God to bury secrets, to keep secrets, to veil secrets. It is proper to us, to kings, to queens, to unveil them, to seek them, to try to find them. And that is what you do in a retreat, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what we want. We want to try to look into this secret, who is Mary. I say secret because we don't know that much about her, but at the same time, we know immensely what we need to know about her. The Gospel of John only includes her twice. She's at the wedding feast of Cana, and she's in the passage I just read twice. That's it. The greatest saint to ever walk this earth, St. Ephrem the Syrian, calls her Eden. Eden. Why is she only in 2 places? Why? The wedding feast at Cana, and here at the cross, at the foot. The wedding feast of Cana, mother is mentioned 4 times. The foot of the cross, mother, mentioned 4 times. Wedding feast of Cana, woman, mentioned 1 time. Foot of the cross, woman, 1 time. What's the connection? What's the secret? We came here to unveil the secret, who is Mary. What can that teach us? Okay. What can that teach us? Some of the most intelligent saints that have gone in the past tell us that there is an intimate connection. Is that Mary was the virginal field in which the pearl of Jesus was buried. Is that Mary was Eden. She was prepared. She was prepared. Okay? Adam was not born in Eden. Adam was placed in Eden, if you look closely at the book of Genesis. All right? Okay. Eden was a raised hill from which 4 rivers flowed out of a garden. Why? Because the best place to be is in the best type of garden, the most fruitful garden, raised on a hill, with the furthest gaze and the greatest intimacy with that which is highest. Okay? In a retreat, if you want to spend time with the highest presence, the highest person, in the most intense manner possible, and that's why we're here. Okay? Because the highest presence brings a high secret. And that's what we desire to unveil in Mary. Okay? St. Ephrem goes on to say that Mary is Eden. But this Eden, she does not know the tree of good and evil. Okay? She doesn't take what Eve took. She prepared herself. She received the gifts necessary so that Adam would go to the end. This second Adam. Okay? Ephrem says that in her is the tree of life. In her is the tree of life. So when Christ himself looks down from the cross to his mother, and he says, "Behold your son," it's a descending movement. It's a choice. The fruit of her body is raised on a tree and is now looking down at her. And she has a son to receive. His name is John. Okay. John Paul II actually explains this quite in detail. There's numerous homilies where he goes into this mystery of John. He does actually distinguish between this descending movement of Christ, this choice, this consecration, he says, of Christ, and this upward ascending movement of John. Okay? He calls this an entrustment. Okay? Christ consecrates John, and John trusts himself. And Mary is caught in the midst of this. The mother. Now, why do I say a secret? Why would I double down on this language of secret with Mary? Part of it is she's incredibly silent. At the wedding feast of Cana, though, she's not. She breaks the silence. She breaks the silence and teaches us about something very interesting about her. She teaches us what is her concern. Okay? First question is, why a marriage? Why a marriage feast? Why would Mary show up at a marriage feast? A number of scholars have actually reflected on this. First of all, they note that a marriage feast is something which is preeminently normative for human life. Okay? At the time of Jesus, a wedding would have lasted 7 days, and they probably didn't show up on the first day based on the fact that the wine ran out. The fact that the wine ran out would have been seen as a mark of an embarrassing situation for the hosts of the wedding. Okay. Mary's sensitive. Remember that. Mary's sensitive. She would have seen what's going on. She would have seen the condition of the bride and the bridegroom. Typically in a wedding feast, the bride and the bridegroom would have been present throughout. Okay? So it's not like they're married and then all those 7 days they're somewhere up in the mountains at their honeymoon, and then their family and their friends remain below to party. It's that they're all present. Mary would have been attentive to them. Mary would have been attentive to Jesus the entire time, observing him, watching him, seeing him interact. Okay? And she asks him to intervene. To intervene and cover up, to veil this embarrassment. All right? The party must go on. These people, we need more wine. Jesus shows up with his disciples and they drink it all. I actually read a scholar last night who was claiming that. He thought that Jesus and his friends, they probably drank a sufficient amount and helped to drain the dregs. So Mary, naturally, with her motherly sensitivity, would like to step forward and remedy the situation. But the fathers tell us there's so much more involved here. It's because it's a movement from water to wine that is marked at the wedding feast of Cana. Okay? 20 to 30 gallons per jar of ritually pure water were stored. Altogether, that would have been about 180 gallons. When Jesus transformed the water into wine, that would have been about the equivalency of 1,000 bottles of wine, 1,000. And not just quantitatively endowed, but qualitatively as well. Jesus doesn't just simply turn water into wine at that feast. He turns a massive amount of purified ritual water into the best wine, the best. Okay. So what's the significance here? Why would Mary want to hasten Christ's hour? Why would Mary be so concerned about moving the direction of the wine and the direction of the celebration? Where else do we see this movement from purifying water to wine? Well, it's not an exact equivalency, but actually in the story of Noah, you have something quite similar in the pattern. Okay? With Noah, you have 40 days and 40 nights. Water comes from above and comes up from below. Okay? Purifying everything. He sounds out the raven doesn't come back. The raven is an impure animal. It doesn't come back. What comes back is the dove, the pure dove, the straight dove. The dove flies, it gets the leaf, and it comes back. Okay? And what does Noah do right when he comes out? He tills the ground and plants a vineyard. And that vineyard produces a superabundance of wine. Apparently a bit too much because he himself drinks to excess, okay? Christ is going to bring something completely different here. All right? When he is moving towards superabundance, he's pointing to the end. When Mary is concerned about the haste to the wine, she's concerned about the end. Right? The perfect mother is concerned about the life of her children. And it's not even there where she stops. She wants life, and she wants perfect life. She wants abundant life. She wants 1,000 bottles, not one. She wants the best wine, not just wine. Does that make sense? Okay. So whenever you have a party, say a prayer. Invite Christ to that party. Invite your mother to that party. Okay? Because the party teaches you about the end. A marriage party teaches you about the end. So that Mary's entire life was marked by marriage. Why? Okay, this is one of the main points I want you to take away from this. It's because all of our lives are oriented toward marriage. The mystery of virginity and the mystery of marriage converge in the mystery of mystical marriage. Okay? Mary's entire life was about marriage. There was a marriage that took place in her womb. Okay? When the Word became united with humanity. Mary offers us access to the Word because our humanity bridges to Christ's humanity through her humanity. Okay? She wants not only everyone to live, but she wants all of us to enter into the definitive marriage, in the definitive Eden. Altogether, all is one, enjoying the supernatural abundance of the unity. Okay? That's why John receives her, because John is going to protect the secret, because John will allow her to be fully alive as this pure lily moving through time, bearing the witness of what's happening with Christ, the witness of who he is as a man, the witness of who he is as God the Word. Okay? Okay. The last thing I would like to say about this is, where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? It leaves us standing at the foot of the cross with Christ, with John, in John, receiving Mary. Okay? So, it's not enough to be baptized, to move in the dynamic direction of this perfect feast. You choose baptism and you walk with Christ, and he will turn his assistant, his mother, toward you.